I love doing land-based whale watching. I think it's a really awesome opportunity because one, it can be really hard to shoot on a boat. And then two, it's less disruptive to the animals, which I think is something really important to consider. And it's also, yeah, it feels almost a little bit more special because you have to be so patient.
Welcome to Wild Development Studio. Join us as we venture into the breathtaking realm of wildlife arts and untamed adventures. With captivating stories from the field and ideas to dive into the visual arts, we'll ignite your passion for conservation. Get ready to develop something wild.
Welcome to Wild Developments. I'm your guide, Lauren, and today's episode is sponsored by JL Aerial Views. They are located in the Loveland, Ohio area and serving the tri-state region, specializing in first-person view, or FPV, drone photography, and videography. It is guaranteed to get your clients' attention. Check them out at jlaerialviews.com. I am excited about today's episode because I got to catch up with a colleague from my aquarium days, Victoria, and it's been really cool to watch her develop and grow and see the types of changes that she's making for our environment is just incredible. Victoria Obermeyer is the executive producer and videographer for Co-Extinction. Victoria is a driven environmental photojournalist and filmmaker with a wide variety of field research and journalistic experience, ranging from live broadcast production to freelance reporting and photographic contribution. She has worked with renowned organizations including Oceanographic Magazine, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Raincoat Conservation, and Patagonia. Hello, Victoria. Thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I'm super excited.
Thank you. So you have a very interesting background with videography. Can you tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you ended up where you are today? Because you've worked with some pretty impressive names.
Oh, thank you so much. So I originally am from Ohio. I went to school at University of Cincinnati and I studied photojournalism and environmental science. And I would say that the photojournalism was something that I knew going into school. That's what I was going to be doing. But the environmental part kind of came later. Always been really, really passionate about outdoors and wildlife and environmentalism. And I would say in college, I just had a lot of really incredible opportunities that allowed me to kind of use that passion and take it into my career. When we originally met, I worked at the aquarium, which was the Wave Foundation at the Newport Aquarium, which was a really cool, amazing opportunity for me to get experience in the conservation field for the first time professionally. Before that, I would say it was more just like a hobbyist. After my internship at Wave, I was able to get an internship with a place called the Whale Museum, which is here in Washington State, where I live now, in Friday Harbor. And what I was doing for the Whale Museum was a program called Sound Watch. And it's a boater education program. So what we would do is basically educate boaters that whales were around and let them know the regulations and the laws. And we were also collecting like long-term data for NOAA on whale behavior and vessel disturbance. So that was a really incredible opportunity program. I helped make a mission statement video for them. And then when I wasn't on the water collecting data, I was also taking a lot of pictures of whales. So I had a really awesome, unique opportunity with that program. It was a really interesting summer though, because it was the first time in a really, really long time that the southern resident killer whales, which are an endangered subspecies of orca in the Salish Sea. It was one of the first summers where they weren't really returning to their normal summer grounds, which is in the San Juan Islands, Friday Harbor. And so a lot of people in the community were really curious as to why that was happening. Obviously, they're a highly endangered population of killer whales. So there's already a lot of concern, but that just added a level of like, what's going on? So I remember being like a really alarming summer for everyone who was in that world. Then I came back to Ohio and finished my degree. And I had a friend reach out and tell me, oh, hey, you should check out this documentary that's getting made called Co-Extinction. And I was like, oh, that sounds like really cool, right up my alley. So I checked out their website, checked out their Instagram, their Kickstarter. I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to reach out. So I sent the team a message, and I let them know, my experience, both in journalism and then with the Southern resident killer whales. And it turns out one of the co-directors, Gloria Pencrozy, actually was working for Straight Watch, which was the Canadian equivalent of Soundwatch in Canada, the same summer as me.
Wow.
And she had a background in journalism too. And we'd met across the water, but never really got a chance to talk. So yeah, we connected right off the bat, and it was really incredible. And they were like, yeah, perfect timing with me graduating school and them starting filming. So that was when I joined the team, was at the very beginning of filming production. And originally I was just going to be a production assistant. So, helping with cameras and organizing equipment and, doing all that fun assistant kind of role, which I was so stoked and so honored to be brought onto the team. But while filming, that role kind of evolved, and I was able to help as a videographer. And then when filming ended, I was able to help and post-production. So I helped as a producer as well, which was really incredible opportunity. And then since Co-Extinction, which has been such an incredible project, not even since, we're still working on Co-Extinction. It's evergreen. I have been helped with production on another documentary with Co-Extinction, done some writing. And then right now I'm working at a nonprofit and doing multimedia content coordination for them. So it's been really amazing. And I feel so privileged to be able to work on these projects and with such incredible people.
Because these projects they're really getting the word out there about the plight of the orca whale and the indigenous people. And before we really dive into that, for our audience sake, can you explain the difference between just regular video and maybe conservation videography?
Yeah, that is a really good point. I think especially when with the Southern residents, obviously they're a very endangered population. And so with all wildlife, you have to take into consideration how you impact them. And specifically the Southern residents, I think, taught me this lesson very early on in my career. But the Southern resident killer whales specifically are really sensitive to vessel disturbances because they are so vocal. So they communicate a lot with pod members, and that is for hunting, socialization, a lot of really critical behaviors. And the specific frequency of boats can really disturb the orcas. So all of our footage from the film was actually donated from science organizations or other photographers and videographers that had permits, which are really, really hard, and they should be to obtain. But we also did some land-based whale watching and got some clips of whales that way. And for me personally, as a photographer on my own too, I love doing land-based whale watching. I think it's a really awesome opportunity because one, it can be really hard to shoot on a boat. And then two, it's less disruptive to the animals, which I think is something really important to consider. And it's also, it feels almost a little bit more special because you have to be so patient when you're doing it. So you're kind of almost like they're coming to you and you're not coming to them kind of feeling, even though that's, debatable and I'm anthropomorphizing, but
So, I mean, with your videos, you're basically speaking for these animals and showing the world, a problem, because I had not heard of this problem until I saw the preview for Co-Extinction. And it's won several awards already, I saw online. So congratulations there. What was the inspiration to begin this film?
Yeah. So I would say I joined the team, as like production was already underway for about a year. But the film really, really evolved. And for me personally, getting involved with the project, I obviously had my experience with the southern resident killer whales, and I was aware of the issues that were going on, from a technical, like science perspective. And of course, like I also knew about indigenous plights on the West Coast and how environmental and social justices are often connected. But working on co-extinction, I feel like I was really able to like be fully immersed in that world. And, we worked with so many incredible indigenous leaders. And I think the film really evolved so much because of our work with them. And yeah, I'm so grateful to have had the experience and to work with such an incredible team. I just want to emphasize that I am just like a small part of a really, really incredible team. And yeah, I've learned so much from them. I've learned so much from the people that we've worked with. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
So how long in total did it take to film? And was this during the pandemic at all? Because I know that would probably cause some problems.
Yes, great question. So it took filming wise about 5 years on and off. So we had like a very intense first shoot of filming that lasted about 3 months. Tons of interviews, also collecting, B-roll as we went along as well. But I would say, as a lot of documentaries, the storyline evolves. And so that first initial filming, like there was so much more that we were like, oh, we want to capture this, or we need to talk to this, or we need to have this event happen or go here. So yeah, that was it was about 5 years of like filming. And then the impact work, I would say, on the film also is like, for our team, especially, just as important as the filming, well, not just as important, but a super, super important element of the production as well. So basically, helping provide resources for folks to like show their support, whether that's taking physical action, writing or calling, or going to protests, or, organizing community screenings to help like spread awareness. So yeah, it's like the production itself was about 5 years, but we've been working with film festivals and screenings since then too, which is still, a super, super important aspect of filmmaking.
So when you're filming, because I know for me, my biggest problem is storage and SD cards, and I can never have enough of them. Is that when you're making such a big production like that and you've got, countless hours of footage, like, how do you guys store and organize it all?
Yeah. So it was also another element too, because a lot of us worked in different parts. Like I'm the only American that worked on the project. And so we had everyone else was in Canada, but we were spread out. So that added like another really interesting element. But yeah, we had, some really, while we were filming, big, hefty hard drives that we were traveling with. And yeah, once we finished that, we had even bigger hard drives that we were editing with. But yeah, it's a lot of footage, especially when you're shooting. Like personally, I'd never shot with such like high quality footage. So it was really interesting to see like the methods behind it. But basically, like to break it down, every shoot, we would have like separate cameras, and then like who was working the camera, and then the location and the date would be like the name of the file. And then we would organize it all into like separate folders for that day by person and by camera, and then organize it by like day, location. And then different shoots had their own like categories as well. So it was a lot, and I learned a lot. Nicholas Castell was the person who really like took on a lot of that organizing, and our other director, Ellen and Jean. So I learned a lot from them as well.
Kudos to them, because that sounds like a lot of work organizing all those digital files.
Yeah.
Now,
and also, sorry, I know you asked about COVID. And that did, I forgot while I was answering that question. While we were filming, actually, it's a major plot in the film. I'll just say that. A major plot twist in the film. COVID definitely, was a really interesting element, especially for me as like an American, like I couldn't obviously get over the border and work on stuff too. But yeah, it was definitely like everyone else. It really, it really changed the trajectory of our film.
Is the film ever going to be on let's Netflix or something like that? I tried a couple times going to the site and trying to, because the preview is so good. I'm like, I need to watch this movie right now. And it's been a little bit of a challenge trying to see it. Do you know any screenings or anything going on?
Yeah, thank you so much. I know we want it out there for everyone to see. Netflix would be awesome, but yeah, right now, like depending on where you are located, like for example, in Canada, it's free to stream on CBC Gem. So if you're ever in Canada, you
There
could
we go.
definitely watch it there. In the US right now, we do have like specific times when on like TV, for example, with different broadcasters when it will be available. But another great way is also to organize a community screening. So on our website, there's a link and you can reach out to our amazing community screening lead, Claire, and she will help organize a screening near you.
Well, okay, so we have a Loveland Theater downtown and they're doing a film festival. I wonder if I can get them to do it during the film festival or just
Oh, cool.
in general for funsies, because it's a really cute little area and that'd be a great place to do a screening.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Well, yeah, feel free to, I'm happy to help make that
I'm
happen.
glad you said I'm going to make this happen. That's going to happen. When you guys were filming, did you get any pushback from any of the communities? Like, did people know why you were there? And were you guys kind of widely received and welcomed, or were people like, what, get away, leave our business alone and, on with production or anything? Like, not production, like consumerism and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say we weren't really like met by any like, like pitchforks or anything. A lot of the folks that we worked with were so incredible and welcoming and inviting and wanting to, help us tell the story. And yeah, everyone we worked with was really, really kind. It, there obviously are like industries and people that probably aren't as happy about some of the things that we've talked about. And it's definitely obviously very political and a lot of it can be very complicated. So, like any documentary or film or anyone doing any kind of reporting, you do get like, your normal like Instagram comments or Facebook comments. But overall, at community screenings and that sort of thing, we've been met with a lot of really amazing support and feedback. And I would say that like is just because our team did such a great job being thorough and doing a great job like researching and thinking about the storyline and thinking about the story impact as well when they were making the film. Obviously, it does talk about like hard issues and things that are, maybe seen as like controversial for some people, but I think we really did a great job about like backing up what we were saying. So
For you, what was the hardest thing physically to do? You said you weren't filming on a boat, so that kind of eliminates that, but is it cold and rainy? Were you out early in the morning?
yeah, so we did film on a little bit on boats, so that was definitely challenging. Limited space.
Yeah.
Physical challenges. We just had a lot of equipment and we were moving a lot during filming. It was really, really amazing. Like especially coming directly from Ohio, moving out to the West Coast. It was so incredible. We got to go to so many different places throughout like Washington and British Columbia, and it was really an incredible way to like be like, wow, this is where I live now and traveling kind of all over. But it was a lot of travel. So just keeping up with like a travel schedule and keeping things organized and then, packing everything up into our like little, our cars and heading on to the next destination or interview. It was really, really fun and really amazing. But yeah, that would probably be like a physical challenge with the moving and grooving.
Do you have any like mental struggles, like watching, the indigenous people and their struggle, and also the animals. I would imagine that would really start tugging at the heartstrings after a while.
Yeah, I mean, uh, gosh, it is so um, incredibly hard to learn more about those topics, and especially like, building relationships with people. Um, then it becomes so much more personal too. And it's obviously already something that's so emotional and upsetting and horrific when we talk about like indigenous injustices. But yeah, getting to know people personally and getting to know their personal stories. It's such a privilege to be like welcomed into that circle, but it's also, yeah, it's really like heartbreaking to see what, you know, the impacts of colonialism firsthand. And then also from like an um, wildlife perspective, we were obviously working with a population that is, really, really close to what could be maybe extinction, which is also something that's really upsetting. Throughout filming and production, there were whales that passed away, and it sometimes would feel like it's like, oh, if we only could have done more, if we only could have done this, which obviously you can't like think that way, but yeah, it was really hard and really emotional to experience all of that. But like I said before, I'm working with such an amazing team, and it was really, really great to be able to like have team members that you trust and that you can lean on. And sometimes there were days where one of us would, well, like I'll speak personally, there were days where I was feeling so like, sad and overwhelmed, and I would communicate with that with my team. And they were there to support me when I needed it. And, we were very okay with crying too, like, letting it out, emotional release, and talking together and processing, whatever we were going through that day, which was really, really helpful. I think, a big conversation about especially like environmental and social justice and storytelling. It's really important to talk about the mental health aspect because, obviously you're experiencing a lot and taking on a lot of really, really heavy things. So it's important to talk about it and have resources and have community that you can rely on. So I hope everyone has that, obviously, no matter where they are or what they do. But it's a really important, I think, conversation to have in this field.
That's beautiful that you took a time out with a group and you guys were able to talk about that and have that outlet instead of like, no, we got to drive on and keep working. Like, it's so important. And I think there are some companies that can learn from that for sure. And there's got to be some payoff and some signs of hope that you've seen since releasing the film. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. It is so rewarding to be able to bring the film to different audiences and, see people's reactions and hear people say like, wow, I learned so much, or I'm inspired to take action now. So yeah, there have been such incredible updates since filming. Like for one example, one thing we talk about a lot in the film are fish farms. And since filming, the fish farms in the Haida Nation have been major legislation has been pushed to remove those. So because of the hard work of people like Chief Ernest Alfred and his community, as well as a scientist named Alexandra Morton, those fish farms are on their way out. So it's so incredible to see, those kind of movements happen.
That's great. Now, even just from the trailer, I was so moved by the woman that said when their people were in charge of the land, not a single orca died. And I'm like, I already want to try and help. And there is a section on the website where people can take action. Can you explain some of the actions? Because I'm still in Ohio. I'm stuck here for a little while. What can I do from Ohio to help out?
Yeah, so that was Carrie Nightwalker, and she is an absolutely incredible force of nature, an incredible leader and matriarch from the Palouse tribe. So it was such a privilege to work with her. And yeah, she has so many moments in the film. That is one of many where you're just like, oh my gosh, incredible, so beautiful. She's so well spoken, and yeah, such an amazing and inspiring person. As far as taking action, there are. I would highly recommend going to our website for specific issues in the film. I would say first thing to start with, though, most importantly, is to educate yourself. So whether that is, watching a documentary, whether it's Co-Extinction or another documentary that focuses on indigenous rights or environmental injustices. Yeah, watching films, reading books. I have a whole bookshelf. You can't see it probably if you're listening to the podcast, but behind me, a whole bookshelf that is full of a lot of different books, but a lot of social justice books as well. So I love reading personally for like teaching myself more about subjects. Documentary filmmaking is great. Just making sure that your resources that you're using are reliable is important as well. But yeah, I would say educate yourself, and then from there, see what inspires you and to take action. On our website, there are different resources because there are so many issues going on behind the endangerment of the southern resident killer whales. We've kind of broken it down into categories. So whatever kind of sparks the most emotion for you and the things that you want to take the most action on, you can go to our website, look up the issue, and then from there find resources on different levels of action. So yeah, we've put a lot of thought into that and laying it out as a kind of broken down by category, like, start here and then build your way up into like bigger actions too. But all actions and any actions is great. And I think they should all start with being informed. So hopefully people are inspired after hearing this to maybe, check out a documentary you've been having on your list or read a book that's been on your Goodreads for a long time. Take a moment to educate yourself.
Great advice. And as far as the word co-extinction for the title of the film, that kind of indicates to me, because it's a great title, because we all need each other in the different species, and without one species, it greatly affects the other. It almost feels like this leads itself to a whole series of films focusing on different animals. And you said earlier you guys are working together. Is there anything you can tell us?
Yeah, so actually, Coexistence Films, which is our production company, has actually recently released another film called Warrior Spirit, which focuses on the story of Will George, who is an indigenous land protector from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And we met him originally in Co-Extinction, or while filming Co-Extinction. He was working with the protest of the Trans Mountain Pipeline and stopping the building of the Trans Mountain Pipeline through the unceded Tsleil-Waututh Nation lands. So this film focuses on his story and his life, and how being an indigenous land protector, what his journey has been like.
So I do have to ask, what is your favorite animal to film?
My favorite animal, it's orcas. I love orcas. I think they're not the easiest to film because obviously they live below the surface. So you have to be really fast and really lucky sometimes too, especially when you're filming, because they'll just jump out of the water for a second and it's like, can you pan your camera fast enough? But luckily they are in family groups. So usually when one surfaces, there'll be a couple after, but it's a fun challenge. I think when you do get to take their picture, when you do get the right moment, they're such beautiful animals. And so I have to say orca, I think.
Do you have any favorite tips for people that want to get into filming or photography, especially for wildlife?
Yeah, I would say just get started. Everyone has, not everyone, phones are such great tools. And nowadays shoot incredible video and photo. So I think it's a great place to start. And then once you start creating, then take that as an opportunity to like invest in equipment. But yeah, I would say writing is also a really great source too. I think there's so many different forms of storytelling as well, that are all so important and so powerful. So yeah, get started in what feels like right for you. And I would say, yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to be like, is this really a story? Like, I don't think so. I remember when I was in school, I was really inspired by someone who was like my age and were working for National Geographic. And I reached out and I was like, oh my gosh, like, how did you do it? And like, they told me, they were like, yeah, I started taking pictures of like birds of prey in my neighborhood in like, suburbia basically. And so I was like, wow, that is so cool. Like, there's wildlife all around us too. So if wildlife is the thing that you want to be telling stories about, yeah, it's about like doing the research, finding out like, oh, actually there is like a really cool endangered bird species that passes by my house this time of year or something. And you can use that opportunity to kind of, yeah, dive in and tell your own story about it.
I'm glad you said that. I took a conservation storytelling class, and it's kind of overwhelming because there's so many ideas out there in the world, and it's like, what do I want to focus on? And I think it's one of those things where eventually the story will kind of, as you're taking the pictures, it'll kind of start to develop on its own, like you said, with the bird of prey going by the house. So I'm going to have to keep trying. Eventually, someday I will end up in National Geographic.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you absolutely will. Yeah, I think it's yeah, it is so cool. I've been thinking a lot about like personal things that I kind of like am interested in working on or exploring. And one thing recently that I was like, oh, this could be a cool story was just like urban wildlife. I think it's really interesting, like seeing what species thrive and what species don't, like, white-tailed deer or squirrels, like, that's
Bats.
wildlife still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. That'll be interesting. I do want to know later on how people can follow you and find you and see all the things that you do. But before that, what is your favorite piece of equipment for photography or just being out in the field in general? Like, do you have a favorite bag or hiking shoes or anything like that?
So I just actually invested in a new camera that I'm really excited about. This is more technical, but it's the Canon R6 Mark II, and it does a lot of like video and photo, which is yeah, what I really like. I'm super, super passionate about being able to kind of do both, especially as like a background in journalism, and specifically photojournalism. So I do really love like taking beautiful pictures and then writing stories about them, as well as like obviously filmmaking. So super excited about that. But also, I also have a background in like doing a lot of backpacking and working in the outdoor field as well. So I'm also really passionate about technical gear. I think as far as like backpacks, I like to wear like backpacks that are more like physically comfortable, and less maybe like specifically designed for photo gear. So I like use my backpacking bag and then like will get like cubes and cushions for my camera. That's kind of how I like to organize it.
Okay.
But I think, you're on your feet a lot. So it's also important to think about your footwear when you're like hiking or backpacking in the backcountry. I really like wearing the Lone Peak Ultras. They're a trail runner, but I take them backpacking. I take them like filming as well. So those are nice shoes.
So my husband asked me an interesting question the other day, because I know video form is very popular on social media. And he's like, how do you know when to take a picture versus doing a video, especially if it's, I don't know, an animal like a bird or a whale where it's going to, fly away or swim away really fast. And he's like, do you ever just do the video and then do a screenshot? And I'm like, well, it's not really the best quality if you do it that way. Have you ever done anything like that?
Definitely like been like, and it depends on like what capabilities your like filming camera has. Because sometimes you can get, depending on like your frame rate, a really nice shot from a screenshot. But then yeah, you have to be shooting at a really high frame rate, and that takes up a lot of memory, and like depending on your equipment can also kind of kill your battery and your card or whatever pretty quickly. But I would say I think it depends on like what your goal is. Like when I start filming or when I start taking pictures, I'm like thinking about like, okay, what am I going to use this for? What do I want to use this for? A lot of times, I feel like I do a lot of like photography on my own. But I actually just was looking into buying a new accessory for my camera that is, you can like mount your phone on top of your camera and then like be filming on your phone and then capturing photo. With wildlife, obviously that's a little bit more challenging, but for like, event photography or, maybe depending on what you're doing, like interview style, sort of stuff, it could be like a fun little tool. Or obviously, like an A cam and a B cam, like setting up your camera for filming and having that like rolling. And then while that's filming, you're taking pictures is another thing you could do.
Great ideas. I like that, the thing that mounts to the camera. It's like having an extra set of hands to help you out.
Yeah. I just saw it the other day and I was like, oh, mind blowing.
We are almost out of time and I gotta go back in time to Newport Aquarium. What was your favorite penguin in the penguin house?
Oh my gosh. Is it possible to choose? I think my favorite was Blueberry.
Okay, good. As long as you didn't say Speckles.
I talk about them all. I think about them and talk about them all the time. They were just such incredible little beings, and it was just such an honor to work with them.
Yeah, it was so much fun. It was good times back in the day.
Yeah, I know. It really was. I miss it a lot.
I know. I'm so happy I got to reconnect with you today. And if people want to check out what you're doing and stay up to date, where can they find you?
Yeah. So please follow Coexistence Films. That is our Instagram, our website, Facebook. And then for me personally, you can find me on Instagram at Tori Obermeyer. So yeah, if you want to follow me there, that would be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored.
And what is one tip you have for someone that would like to connect with nature?
Oh man. Just remembering no matter where you are, nature is always around. It doesn't have to be like going deep miles into a forest to connect with nature. It can just be like, sitting on your lawn and taking a second to like check out the grass and see all the amazing wildlife, or look up into the sky and see the beautiful birds. Like it's always all around us. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And until next time, get outside and see what develops.
Thanks for joining Wild Development Studio. We hope this exploration into the world of wildlife arts and adventure has sparked a desire to get outside and connect with something wild. If you have an adventure that's awe-inspiring, don't hesitate to share. Click the link in the description to submit your story to have it featured on our show or be a guest. Until next time, keep connecting to the wild and see what develops. The views, opinions, and statements expressed by individuals during Wild Development Studio productions do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Wild Development Studio or its affiliates. Participation in any activities, expeditions, or adventures discussed or promoted during our content may involve inherent risks. It is strongly advised that individuals conduct thorough research, seek professional guidance, and take all necessary precautions before engaging in any such activities. Wild Development Studio, its representatives, or employees shall not be held responsible for any injury, loss, damage, accident, or unforeseen incident that may occur as a result of participating in activities inspired by or discussed in our content. By choosing to engage with our content or act upon any information provided, individuals do so at their own risk and discretion.